International tourism is experiencing a spectacular decline across the United States, and Florida, once an unmissable destination, is suffering the most devastating consequences of this unprecedented crisis. Canadian tourists, who represented the fundamental foundation of Florida's tourism economy, practically stopped visiting the Sunshine State. The trend became so alarming that for sale signs accumulated along the southern border, manifesting the economic reality of a region once prosperous and thriving. This phenomenon reflects a complex socio-economic situation where escalating political tensions and worldwide economic uncertainty combine to create a perfect storm. It is crucial to understand that the impact of the Canadian boycott extends far beyond simple tourism attendance figures and statistics. Imagine owning a business where your best customers spend significantly more than anyone else, return every single year without exception, and recommend your establishment to everyone they know. Would you insult these irreplaceable clients? Would you threaten them openly and publicly? Would you make them feel deeply unwelcome and rejected? Of course not. That would represent pure commercial madness and business suicide. Yet that is exactly what Florida politicians did to Canadian tourists, thereby triggering an economic catastrophe of historical proportions. The majority of Americans remain completely unaware of the crucial importance of Canadian tourists to Florida's economic system. These visitors are not simply ordinary vacationers who disappear after 1 week of relaxation. We are discussing seasonal migrants, the snowbirds, who spend entire winters in Florida, spending an average of $33,000 per household every single season. They purchase groceries at local supermarkets, eat regularly in restaurants, shop in nearby commercial establishments, and keep entire communities alive during what should be the slow season. These expenditures are not negligible. They constitute the economic backbone of numerous coastal and urban regions throughout South Florida. Everything changed when President Trump began calling Canada the 51st American state, accompanying his verbal provocations with excessively high tariffs. The irony lies in the fact that most Canadians did not express frustration solely toward Trump personally. They channeled their discontent toward the entire United States as a tourist destination, and guess who pays the direct price for this sentiment? Florida does. The repercussions were immediate, brutal, and quantifiable in every measurable way. According to Congressman Jared Moskowitz, the decline in Canadian tourists reached 80% in actual figures. These numbers do not represent exaggeration or pessimistic projection. They reflect the measurable reality of official tourism data. Consider the concrete example of Richard Cleet, owner of multiple hotels in Hollywood, Florida, who witnessed in real time the disappearance of his Canadian clientele. He explicitly stated that many Canadian clients expressed profound dissatisfaction concerning how Trump spoke about their prime minister. This situation pushed them to deliberately boycott the United States intentionally. His hotel establishments experienced a 50% decrease in Canadian clientele compared to the previous winter. These represent not simply abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. These are real people with genuine purchasing power who decided that Florida no longer deserved their precious vacation dollars. Unfortunately, the story deteriorates significantly from this point forward. While Canadian tourists were already ceasing to arrive in droves, Florida politicians gazed at this initial economic disaster and reflected deeply. Their staggeringly stupid conclusion was that the situation needed to become deliberately worse. They proposed something of such shocking audacity that it seemed almost implausible during my initial research phase. The Florida House of Representatives approved legislation aimed at purely eliminating all 62 tourism development councils established throughout the entire state. For those unfamiliar with precisely these institutions, allow me to explain their fundamental role and purpose. These tourism development councils function literally as Florida's commercial sales team, responsible for promoting tourism. They collect money derived from hotel taxes and use it strategically to market Florida to potential visitors worldwide. They fund beach restoration and protection, attract major sporting events, and essentially accomplish everything that makes Florida desirable in the eyes of international tourists. Eliminating these councils would equate to McDonald's firing its entire marketing department, then wondering perplexed why nobody knows about their newest products. This represents economic suicide disguised as conservative fiscal responsibility. Now prepare yourselves for the actual figures, because they will absolutely stupefy and alarm you completely. Tourism development councils collect nearly $2 billion annually from hotel taxes. According to thorough analysis conducted by Florida Politics, simply eliminating these councils would inflict an economic blow of $37 billion to the entire state. Furthermore, this would cost $22.5 billion in lost wages for affected Florida workers. Meditate upon this figure for a moment with full consciousness. Florida politicians were seriously contemplating destroying $37 billion of productive economic activity, simply to provide residents a $60 property tax reduction. This literally resembles burning your house to save money on your monthly electric bill. The mathematical calculation is so catastrophically bad that it becomes almost comical, except that millions of genuine jobs depended directly on this decision. Robert Scrow, executive director of Destinations Florida, named this proposition exactly what it represented. He qualified it as pure and simple economic sabotage. He solemnly warned that eliminating tourism promotion would jeopardize the livelihoods of more than 2 million Floridians. And note carefully that we are not discussing wealthy, prosperous business executives. We are discussing hotel workers, restaurant servers, small local business owners, and ordinary families who depend entirely on tourists to pay their monthly bills and put food on their family table. Have you ever pondered why certain locations become prestigious tourist destinations while others remain ignored? It is absolutely not simply a matter of having beautiful weather or spectacular beaches. Hawaii possesses these qualities. California possesses them equally. Dozens of other locations benefit from these identical natural assets. The crucial difference resides in strategic and continuous marketing. The difference consists of making people aware of what you possess and convincing them to choose you rather than any other beautiful destination on the planet. Florida understood this principle for decades, hence its status as current global tourism powerhouse. Apparently, certain politicians completely forgot this fundamental and basic business principle. They genuinely believed that Florida's reputation would maintain itself independently without effort, while they scored political points by reducing promotional budgets. The timing proved catastrophic to the maximum possible degree. Just as Florida politicians threatened to completely disembowel their tourism marketing, the Canadian boycott amplified exponentially. Canadian automobile visits to the United States collapsed by 34% in August 2025 alone, according to Forbes data. Although this phenomenon affected the entire nation, Florida felt it more intensely than anywhere else, simply because Canadian tourists constituted a disproportionately enormous portion of winter tourism economy. What renders this situation even more frustrating concerns the apparent total unconsciousness of Governor Ron DeSantis regarding the actual gravity of the situation. During the Florida Governor's Conference on Tourism in 2025, he triumphantly announced that Florida welcomed 34,400,000 visitors during the second quarter, including only 640,000 Canadians. This Canadian figure represented a 20% decline compared to the previous year. However, DeSantis acted as though absolutely everything functioned perfectly and normally. Brian Griffin, new president and executive director of Visit Florida, attempted to present a positive perspective of the disastrous situation. He announced that Florida was actually experiencing an increase in visitors from other countries, notably Brazil and other nations. But here lies the fundamental problem with this superficial logic. Replacing Canadian tourists who spend thousands of dollars and stay for multiple months with visitors from other countries constitutes a deceptive false equivalence. Different tourists possess radically different spending habits, variable stay durations, and asymmetrical economic impacts. Canadians were not simply passing tourists. They represented genuine seasonal residents who became integral parts of Florida communities. They had regular favorite restaurants, preferred supermarkets, assigned golf courses, and developed significant commercial relationships with local entrepreneurs. When they departed, they did not simply carry away their money. They literally removed decades of solidly established economic relationships. You can observe the real impact in places like Fort Myers Beach, where nailed-up shuttered shops tell the heartbreaking story of a tourism economy in profound distress. In Clearwater, for sale signs line up everywhere on properties that were once full of regular Canadian winter visitors. These are not simply abstract statistics detached from reality. These are tangible visual proofs that Florida's tourism economy is literally bleeding money away. Annie Holcomb, a business development executive for vacation rental companies in Panama City, explained precisely why Tourism Development Council reductions would be absolutely devastating for everyone. She asserted that Florida and every tourism destination constantly rivals against other states and international destinations to obtain events, conferences, and the precious attention of travelers who possess complete choice of destination. She concluded that you never completely stop marketing when you are at the top of competition. She was entirely correct in her analysis. Tourism remains fundamentally an extremely competitive business sector. Every sunny destination existing on the planet covets precisely these tourism dollars. Mexico actively rivals to obtain them. The Caribbean also rivals intensely. Even other American states rival against one another. The precise moment Florida stops marketing effectively, these rival destinations immediately stand ready to infiltrate and capture the market share that Florida loses. The domino effects extend considerably beyond sole traditional hotels and restaurants. Sports tourism literally generates millions of dollars from tournaments and major events, and it depends directly on Tourism Development Council financing. Without these essential councils, Florida communities lose completely their capacity to attract major sporting events, international conferences, and important foreign tourists. According to industry experts, if you destroy the TDC, you irrevocably destroy Florida's capacity to compete globally. What renders this situation even more enraging concerns the fact that Florida's tourism industry was actually recording records in several domains before the political debacle. The state welcomed 142,900,000 visitors in 2024, representing a 1.6% increase compared to 2023. Tourism generated over $150 billion of measurable economic impact and supported 2,100,000 direct jobs. Florida was literally winning against worldwide competition, yet politicians were willing to risk absolutely all this accumulated success for ephemeral short-term political gains. The Canadian boycott shows absolutely no signs of slowing down or moderation. Tourism economics data reveals that Canadian visitation continues descending progressively in statistics, with visits from Canada declining by 25.2% year-over-year according to August 2025 data. Many Canadians now deliberately choose to travel toward other international destinations rather than the United States. Some travel to Brazil, others turn toward European countries, and many simply choose to remain home or travel within Canada. And here is the element that should literally terrify every single business owner in Florida deeply. Once trust is broken, it requires multiple years to completely rebuild it. This is a story concerning what happens exactly when politicians prioritize spectacular political theater rather than measurable economic reality. This is the story of the inherent danger in taking your best customers completely for granted. This is a demonstration of the speed with which decades of accumulated goodwill can evaporate when leaders embrace terribly myopic decisions. As Florida prepares for what should be its crucial winter tourism season, interrogations constantly increase. Will Canadian tourists ever return in numbers comparable to before? Can Florida realistically replace billions lost in tourism revenues with visitors from other countries? Will other international tourists watch how Florida treated Canadians and decide elsewhere would be preferable for their vacations? Most importantly, will politicians sincerely learn from their monumental errors? Or will they continue prioritizing theatrical political postures rather than genuine economic well-being of their own citizens? Yet, in the commercial tourism sector, public perception constitutes literally everything that matters. And currently, Florida's perceptual problem proves absolutely massive and profound. Trust requires decades for its construction and can be entirely destroyed in mere months. And, in our contemporary connected world, there always exist other sunny destinations prepared to warmly welcome the visitors that Florida voluntarily alienated.